Welcome back to Zakima's Ridge Homestead. We're going to do a little work on the old Golden Jubilee today. The first thing we're going to do is change this flat tire. So come along and we'll show you how we do that.
Hello and welcome to our channel. We're glad you're here.
I think most of you would agree that self-sufficiency is a big part of homesteading. Either to do your own work or even going a little further into like the prepping realm. So we decided that since we have tractors, we should be able to change the tires ourselves. So we've purchased the tools we would need to do that. Bought a couple of tire spoons. That's the Bead Lube. Look out, Cole, there you go. Bought a Bead Breaker. That's the ratchet, of course, to run the Bead Breaker, and a hammer for the Bead Breaker. And it's kind of hard to see in that sunlight, but next to the hammer is a cable that you use to pull the stem for the tube out, which we'll show you in a little bit. Okay, in a way, we've already made this video but never posted it. We bought new tires for this I think last summer. Ordered them off of eBay, and when they came, they were two different tires. They were both, I think it was like Road King, or it was a Chinese tire, but they were both the same brand, but the tread patterns were different, the tread depths were different, so they definitely were not the same tire. I went around and around with the seller quite a few times that they insisted they only sell the same tire. Sent them a big group of pictures. If I can find them, I'll post them somewhere on here so you can see that they're obviously different tires. Cole, come on, buddy. So we ended up pulling this one tire off and went to put the new tires on. That's when I realized that they were the wrong tires. So part of that was trying to get the bead off, because you can see this front bead is still attached to the rim. The back bead has come loose because this tire is flat, and you'll see why later. But I didn't have the bead breaker back then, so I ended up doing what I had to do and took the tire off the tractor, laid it out front, and ended up driving the old F-250 front tire over the edge of this until I got the bead to break. So I'm not positive if I still have the footage on that. If I do, I'll pop it in here and show you what we did, because if you don't have the right tools, sometimes you have to improvise, and that's what we had to do. I tried the old stick the tire under the back of your truck and use a bottle jack trick. That didn't work, so I went with plan C, which was run it over with the 1-ton truck. And on my second attempt, bead's off down here, so I'm going to need to, there we go, now we're coming off. You can hear that rust cracking loose. Alright, so there is the bead off on one tire. We'll put that back on the tractor and lube it up, get it off of there, and get the new tire on it. In homesteading, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I don't have a bead breaker, so you got to improvise. The weight of the truck did it. So the first step here will be to remove the valve core, which we'll do with this little valve core removing tool. Now the pull cable, it also has the same valve core removing tool on the end of it here as this one does. But this one's a little more easy to manage than trying to turn this little thing here with the cable spinning. So we'll remove the valve core out of the inner tube, and then we'll start to remove the bead. Okay, the valve core is removed, and I also removed the little ring that holds the valve stem into the rim. So now we'll try using this bead breaker and see how it works. Hey, personally, I've never used one of these before. I've only seen them used on YouTube videos. So we'll see how this goes. I know there's 2 jack screws on here. We need to drive this portion here between the rim and the tire. Then we tighten this up, which will clamp this to the rim, and then we can turn this one here, and this center shoe will come out and push the tire off of the bead. So let's give it a try and see how it works. looks like if I tighten this bottom one up, at the same time I'm tapping that in the bead, it's driving it in there pretty good. Okay, that seems pretty solid. It's not going any deeper. It's clamped on pretty good. So now we'll turn this other screw, which should jack the bead right off the rim. It looks like it's working. I can kind of hear the rust breaking loose. Yeah, I'm glad this is a junk tire because it's actually tearing the tire a little bit. I'm going to try bringing this back in and moving it over a little bit. See if I can get a little deeper bite on it. It's actually pinching the tire a little bit where it dug in. Like I said, this tire's completely junk, which you'll see when I get it off. But yeah, if this was a good tire I was going to put back on, I wouldn't be too happy right now. I don't think it's going to go on any further. Maybe that's got it at a better angle. I think I tightened it up a little more on this one this time than I did last time. Wow. That doesn't sound good on those threads at all. Let me put the tractor in gear. That's definitely working better this time. It's pushing the bead straight back instead of kind of peeling into it. So apparently I didn't have it quite tight enough last time. Definitely going to have to run this out all the way when I'm done. put some lubrication on these threads, because you can just hear how dry they are, scraping. But it is working good. It's just about popped off of there. See if I can help that a little bit with the spoon here. Yep, it's coming off. There we go. And the bead's off. So the lesson learned there was this had to be in deeper than I had it. And like I said, I need to lubricate this jack screw threads. They didn't sound too good. But now that we've got the bead broken loose, we can use the spoons to remove the tire from the rim. And again, I'm no professional tractor tire changer. This is only the second time I've ever done this. Take it back out of gear so I can turn it. And if I'm doing this totally wrong, feel free to comment below. Like I said, I've never done this professionally. Just doing what I need to do here on the homestead. I think it's just about off there. Okay, there's one side. There's actually water down in there. So this will be hard to film because the valve stem's on the back side of the tire or the rim. So I'm going to shut the camera off, fish that valve stem down out of the rim, and work the inner tube up out so we can pull the tire off the back bead. Be right back. That's kind of coming out relatively easy, so I thought I'd go ahead and film it. The valve stem itself had actually pulled out when I pulled the tire off, so I just had to pull the inner tube out. This is one reason you want to, even when it's flat, take that valve core out, because this lets the air kind of bleed out as you're forcing the tube around. There we go, tube is out, and we're going to have to fill this up and patch it because I know it's got a hole in it. Kind of nasty there. The bead being flat outside has let some water get in there, so everything's kind of muddy and nasty down inside, and there's ice in there from sitting outside because it's cold. I just brought the tractor back in the garage this morning. So now we might be able to just find a bad spot here. just pull this off the rim without using the spoon. Once again, I've seen guys do it on the internet that know what they're doing. Apparently, I'm not one of them. Oh, there we go. That's starting to come. Yeah, this is kind of a pain. Wipe my hands off here. Okay, we'll try back at this. Yeah, sometimes I don't know if my physical size might hinder me a little bit on stuff like this, where I just don't have the strength to do stuff that other guys would. I think I'm all of 150 pounds soaking wet, so it's coming now. Here, tire. Try putting it back in gear so it's not moving. Now we're making progress. Thought I had it in gear. Oh, come on here. This thing's like halfway off the rim and it still won't come. Come on, what am I doing wrong here? There we go. I can hear it now. So what'd you do all day? Oh, I watched some idiot struggle with a tractor tire on YouTube. It was a real treat. Okay, we are off. And now I can show you the biggest problem with this tire. The bead is broken on this tire. It's just split right in half here. We've tried putting duct tape on it last time to keep it from poking into the inner tube, but that's what's happened again. One of these bead wires has stuck through the back of this tape and poked a hole in this inner tube. So now that we got the tire off, we can put the valve core back in the inner tube, fill it up with air, find our hole, clean it up, put a patch on it. Well, with most of the water and rust and dirt and stuff cleaned off of the tube, I knew my hole had to be somewhere in this vicinity here. As you can see, I've already got a few patches right through here because this is where that broken bead section is when it's on the rim. And sure enough, right there's our little hole. So I need to put a patch on that hole and we can start putting this back together. I've found the hole, but by golly, you think I can find my tire patch kit? I know it's around here somewhere, a little white and blue cardboard tube, but I can't find it, so I'm going to have to run to the store and get a patch kit. And just to show that I was correct in my thinking, these lines right here on the inner tube, that's the edge of the duct tape I had on that broken bead section. So that hole there is definitely one of those bead wires that's poked the tire. So I'll go run to the store and get another patch kit so we can fix this tube, and we'll be back at this. Well, I'm back from an unnecessary trip to Napa. There's the tire patch kit I just bought at Napa. And I know somewhere in this garage there's an almost identical tube of a patch kit. And it is so frustrating. I'll link up in the corner the playlist for what we're doing out here in the garage, trying to straighten things up and get it organized. And while we're in the middle of all this organization and having to get stuff done at the same time, you use this thing and you sit it over here where you know it's going to be, and then it gets pushed over there, and then it's over there, and then the next thing you know, you can't find it. So eventually, everything in this garage is going to have a place and be nice and organized, and we're going to know where everything's at, because I've bought this when I didn't have to, and I've bought multiple 3/8 concrete bits when I didn't have to, but I couldn't find what I had. So if you got a garage in the shop, try and keep it organized. It can save you some money. So we will get down here and patch this tube. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing from up there. First thing I'm going to do is add some more air. You definitely want these about the size they are going to be when they're in the tire when you put the patch on them. Because if you patch them when they're small, it's going to stretch. Okay, the tire, or the tube is about the size it would be inside the tire. Like I was saying before the compressor kicked on, you want the tube about the size it's going to be when you put the patch on it, because if you have the tube deflated and you put the patch on, it's going to want to like pucker the rubber because it's going to be holding it. So you want it about the size it's going to be. So inside the patch kit is one of these little rubber scratchers. We'll take that and we'll clean up around the hole. In fact, we'll use a little brake parts cleaner here. As well. Since we've got that duct tape residue there, we want to try and get that off. Okay, that's pretty clean. We'll let that dry for a minute, let that brake cleaner evaporate before we go for any further. Okay, with that all evaporated, we'll take our tube of cement, which isn't opened yet, open it up. Put the cement all around the hole. And you're supposed to let that cement air dry. So I'll just patch our hole here so we don't lose all our air while that cement dries. And we'll be back. Okay, that cement's pretty well dried. We'll take our patch, peel our corner off, and stick our patch in the cement on our hole. And give her a good push. And that should do it. I don't hear any more hissing other than the air nozzle. So we'll let this sit for a few minutes. Make sure it's going to stay on there. And then we'll let the air back out of the tube. And we'll start putting this thing back together. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes once that's good and dry. Now, while that patch was drying, I went ahead and got the new tire prepped. This is a used tire we got off of one of the Facebook marketplaces. They were giving it away for free, so the price was right. We are selling this tractor, so I'm not going to spend money on a brand new tire. And this one does look to be in pretty decent shape tread-wise. It's just about as good as the one on the other side. Got plenty of life left in it. It's not dry rotted real bad. As long as whoever buys this is only using it to brush hog and do things like that, these should be fine. Now, if you're going to use this for a ground engaging purpose, such as a plow, you're probably going to need new tires. But these tires are more than serviceable for brush hogging and just general driving the tractor around. So what I did was I got in here and with a rag, and there was some water in it from sitting outside. I got that soaked out, and then I took a towel and gently rubbed the entire inside of the tire to make sure there's no little nails or wires or screws or anything sticking through this tread that's going to put a hole in our tube again. So you want to do that real careful so you don't, if there is something, you don't want to rip your hand open. So I had it, like I said, I had it wadded up in a rag, and I rubbed that rag around the inside. Then I ran a vacuum cleaner in here to get it good and clean. So now we will put this tire back on the rim, put the tube in it, put the other part on, and air it up. So we will use our Bead Lube. Get this inside bead good and wet. Now these bead on this tire is not perfect. It's got some chunks of rubber kind of opened up a little bit on it. Not horrible, but kind of the same problem I was having with that Bead Breaker originally, where it was digging in. That's probably what's happened here. Someone's used a tire spoon or a bead breaker and kind of caught the rubber and cut the rubber a little bit. But being an inner tube tire, it's not using that to seal on anyway. And the bead itself is not broken like our old tires. So this should work very well. Just make sure it's good and wet here. Hit the inside one more time. And now we'll try and stick this thing on the rim. Again, I've seen normal sized guys just take these and give them a good shove and they go on. I don't think it's going to happen for me. I'm going to have to work it on with the spoons. somewhat. Where's the other spoon at? Instead of filming my struggle here, I think I'm going to turn the camera off while I fight this part on. We'll come back on when we get time to put the bead or the inner tube in. I kind of wish I would have left the camera on. It wasn't that bad. I used the thinner spoon, and it was able to pop it around. I got about maybe 1.5 foot left, and just took the hammer, tapped the bead with a hammer, and it popped right on. But I did have to run the vacuum cleaner in through there again, because when I was kicking it, the mud on my boots fell down inside. So now it's time to put the inner tube back in. The bead is up, or not the bead, but the valve stem location is up. And I do want to show you on this tube, hope you can kind of see this. There's that patch I put on, and you can see how it's kind of puckered up. That's what I was saying. If you don't fill the inner tube up, it's puckered up now because the rubber was stretched when we patched it, and it's holding on to that stretched rubber, so it's pushing the patch up. If you put the patch on when the rubber's relaxed like this, it's going to pucker the opposite. It's going to be pulling around the patch, and it could tear the inner tube. So like I said before, you've always got to make sure your tubes are full of air before you patch them. So let's get this tube back in there. Goes in this direction. Our valve stem goes up. Pretty much just have to stuff it in the tire. And that last little bit, you just have to stretch over the top. And we'll take our cable with the handle on it, stick it through the hole where the valve stem goes, and drop it on the floor. We'll want the valve stem down. So we'll bring this around to where the valve stem is down. Install that cable. You can't see me doing it, but right now I'm feeding that cable between the rim and the tire, so it's up inside the tire. I've got the cable in my hand, and I am threading the cable into the valve stem hole. So once we get the tire back on the rim, I can just grab this cable, pull that T-handle, and that will bring the valve stem back out of the rim. So we'll get this tire centered up. I'm going to re-lubricate the bead just to make sure it's good and slippery. Now we'll get ready to put this tire back on. I've seen people use vice grips, so I'm going to grab a set of vice grips. The idea of the vice grips there is it keeps the tire from walking back off. Once you get it started on. I'm pretty sure from this point off, it's just walking the tire back on. Being careful not to catch the inner tube with the tool. That's just going to poke a hole in your inner tube again. Come on. Spot on the bead there. Come on. There we go. Come on. The top of the tire's in where it needs to be. Maybe I'm trying to take too much. We're close here. And this thing is all but on there. Come on, there we go. All right, tire is back on the rim. bring it around so I can find my cable here. Just center it up a little bit. Seems like the inner tube might be pinched somewhere. It's not wanting to come around. There, it's spun. If I could just get it to... Whew. Seems like the inner tube kind of rotated this direction, because I was able to pull it and I could feel it drag this way. But right now, that's the hole in the rim. The valve stem's coming in this way. So I need to get the tube to move just a little more back so I can get that stem to pop in there without breaking anything. Come on. Almost. Okay. There is our valve stem sticking out. We're still not straight 100%, but we're pretty close. So I will get the nut that holds the stem in place, unscrew our cable carefully to not let it pop back inside, the stem that is. Put our little nut on there. Just get it started. Okay, that should hold it in place. Pull our vice grips, and we'll throw some air in this. There, hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. Right here's the valve stem. I've already put the core back in it. And it still wants to tip that way just a little bit. So the tube still needs to rotate counterclockwise in the rim. Throw some air in here. Possibly once the inner tube pushes the tire out and seats the beads, I can let the air back out of the tube and it might turn a little easier. Yeah, sorry, I had turned you off there. The air compressor kicked back on again, so you couldn't hear. While it was off, I went ahead and filled the tire up. The inner bead popped on into place. The outer bead is 99.9% on. It didn't pop. You could hear it kind of like rubbing as it went out toward the seating position. So I'm going to go ahead and let the air back out of the tube. See if we can get this valve stem straight, and then we'll re-air the tire back up. Well, there it is, back on the rim. I did let the air out, take the stem out. Well, took the stem out, let the air out. Once the air was out, I was able to jiggle the valve stem and get it squared back up the way it should be, tighten the nut down all the way, and then refill it with air. So it's good to go. One thing I think I failed to mention, when you put the tires on, this one, where the size is at on the sidewall, right here, 12-4-28, there's a directional arrow. It's pointing forward when it's on the top. You need to make sure you put your ag tires on the proper direction. These bars should face like arrows at the top, pointing, so when they're engaging the ground, the arrows are pointing into the dirt to help push the tractor forward. So you need to make sure you put the tires on the correct direction. I did notice on our New Holland that one of the front tires is actually on backwards, but they're so stiff I don't think I can change those with what the tools I have. Might try it, but I'm probably going to fail on that one. Well, that's how you change a tractor tire with minimal tools and minimal knowledge. And you could have chose to watch a video of paint dry, or you could have watched some idiot change a tire. So I appreciate you hanging around while I change the tire on this old tractor. Any questions or comments, please put them down below. All the equipment I used, I bought either off of Amazon or eBay. But if you need links to anything, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed watching the tire changing video. Please subscribe. I appreciate a thumbs up. And again, any questions or comments, you can put those down below. Have a good day. Thanks for watching.